allowing our palms to face up, our feet to come wide so that we have balance on our foam roller. As we close our eyes, we begin to connect with our breath. As we feel our breath slow down, allow our breathing to move into the deepest part of our ribs. Seeing if we can expand through the sides of our ribs more than our belly. As we keep our eyes closed, let's begin to rock side to side and finding some movement through our hips, through our shoulder blades, a little bit through our spine. And then come back to center. Let's draw our arms close to our body, lift our arms straight up to the ceiling, bring our fingertips together, take our palms apart, lift our arms up as high as we can so that we're feeling our shoulders lift away from the foam roller and our shoulder blades pulling apart. Then let our shoulders come back down, let our shoulder blades wrap around our foam roller. And then keep your arms straight. And we're just going to let the weight of our arms sink into these muscles between our shoulder blades and our spine. These are called our rhomboids. And depending how you hold tension in this area will really depend on how this feels for you. Make sure it honors your body and that you're not going too deep. Come back to our breath. And then we're going to slowly draw our hands back, just inching them back a little at a time. And notice as our shoulders begin to lift away from the foam roller. Notice if we have a little more tension through the upper part of our rhomboids and into our traps. Pausing when we've created about a 45-degree angle with our arms, or we begin to feel our ribs lift up. And then slowly inch our arms back up so that our fingertips are pointing towards the ceiling again, even though we're keeping our fingertips together. And then we're going to start to move our arms down. Again, we're only going to that 45-degree angle, that diagonal away from our shoulders. So we don't have to go very far. And just exploring the lower part of our rhomboids. And they fan down from the base of our shoulder blades all the way up to the top. Drawing our hands back up to the ceiling, bringing our hands in line with our shoulders. Then we're going to take our fingertips apart, keeping our arms really heavy, shoulder blades wrapping around our foam roller. We're going to start to inch our hands out. So not very far, just a little bit wider than shoulder width apart, and then we're going to hold. And then draw our hands back a little bit. Holding. And draw our hands back up to the ceiling. And draw our hands forward a little bit. Again, no more than that 45-degree angle. And bringing our hands back up to the ceiling. Let's start to draw our hands out a little bit wider. And try to keep your shoulder blades wrapped around your foam roller. You can bend your elbows if you like. Continue taking our arms out wide. And we're going to lower our arms down to what feels good for us. And then start to lift just our hands. Draw our hands towards our shoulders. Lift our elbows up and then extend our hands up to the ceiling. This time we're going to draw our hands back behind us, coming to a place that honors us. listening to our upper back, our shoulders, our neck, our head. Finding a rotation in your arm if that feels better for you. Take your arms out wider if that feels better. Make sure that you're honoring your body as a whole. You can bend your elbows, let your hands come to the floor if you like. But again, make sure this honors your whole body, not just part of it. And draw our hands towards the top of our head, lift our elbows up, and then extend our hands up. We're going to bring our arms to our side, about parallel to the ground. Turn our palms down. And then from here, we're going to sweep our arms back, just keeping them parallel to the ground until they're about the same height as our shoulders. Then we're going to turn our palms up, and we're going to bend our elbows and draw our hands towards the top of our head. And then sweeping our hands back out, palms stay up until they get to about the same height as our shoulders. Then turn your palms down, and then we're going to sweep our hands towards our hips. And then sweeping our hands back. When they reach the same spot as our shoulders, turn our palms up. Draw your arms back to what feels good. Bend your elbows when you want. Bring your hands to your head or your hands together. So whatever feels the best for you. And create a diamond shape with your arms if you like. And then draw our hands back out, turning our palms down, and then bringing our hands to the side of our hips. And lower our arms down to the floor, turning our palms up to the ceiling so that we're opening the front of our chest. Then walk our feet in a little bit closer together so they're about hip width distance apart. From here, lift our right heel up off the floor. Lift our left heel. So both heels are lifted now. Hug our ribs in and then lift one foot. Doesn't matter which one because we're going to start to march it out. Releasing our foot down, lift our other foot and lower it down. Just continuing to march. Don't let our heels come to the floor unless we need to. Maybe make it a little more challenging and bringing both feet up and then tap one foot down to the floor. And then bringing both feet back down to the floor, soften our bellies. And we're going to roll to one side, coming off our foam roller. Come to the floor and release the foam roller off to the side. Taking a moment to allow our hips and our shoulders to relax on the floor. And from here, we're going to bring our arms back to our side. Lift our hands up to the ceiling. Turn our palms towards our feet and draw our arms back behind us to a place that honors us. Keep the front of our ribs hugged down. Feeling length across the front of our body, to the sides of our shoulders. And then I'm walking our feet as close to our hips as comfortable for us. We're going to lift our hips up off the floor, draw them up to the ceiling, come to the top of our shoulders, and then lower our hips back down, tap the mat. Lift up and lower. And lift and lower. And lift and lower. Continue to flow, warming up the back of our body. And bringing our hips back down. Hug the front of our ribs down. Lift our arms up, bring our hands up to the ceiling, turn our palms towards each other, and we're going to lower our arms out to the side. From here, lift our feet up, bringing our knees over the top of our hips. And I want you to grab a hold of your foam roller and place it between your legs so that you include your feet, your knees, and your inner thighs. From this position, we're going to lower our knees over to the right halfway and hold, keeping the back of our shoulders on the floor. Bring our legs back up and take our legs over to the left halfway, hugging our belly in so that we're supporting our low back. Bring our knees back up. Try and get that movement into the mid part of your back. Knees come over to the right and lift back up. And knees to the left and come back up. And continue to flow side to side, lowering your legs down to a place that honors you, keeping your belly hugged in. Coming back to center after you finish both sides. And then grabbing a hold of our foam roller, releasing our feet down to the floor. We're going to place our foam roller on our right side and then roll to our right side and press ourselves up. From this position, we're going to extend our right arm back at a 45-degree angle so that we can slide the foam roller underneath our arm and the back of our shoulder. So we're going for that muscle group right there where our arm meets our shoulder blade. And we're going to place that on top of our foam roller as we side lie. So we want our ankles, our knees, and our hips to be stacked. We want the foam roller in that groove between where our arm meets our shoulder blade. And then we want to let our arm completely relax down. You can bend your elbow if you want more, or you can let your head rest onto your shoulder. You choose. So we allow our weight to sink into this space behind our armpit. We begin to feel the shoulder blade push back. We stretch and lengthen through our teres muscle group, some of our rotator muscles. We lengthen to the side of our ribs. And then slowly rock our left shoulder back. And come back up. Rocking our left shoulder back. Let our whole body move as one. And then roll back. So we're massaging out a few more of our rotator cuff muscles in the back of our shoulder. This runs across the top of our shoulder blade, which for many people can be pretty tight. Try and keep your elbow back. And come back to center and hold. Taking our left hand to the floor, release our right hand down. We're going to press our left hand into the floor to come up, and we're going to switch sides. So again, extending our left arm out away from our body, but in line with our body. We're going to take that foam roller and kind of place it where we think we might be at, adjust it as you need. Remember, it's that groove between your arm and your shoulder blade is what we want on top of our foam roller. As we extend our left arm out, we notice that our shoulders are in alignment, our spine is long, we have hips, knees, ankles stacked, and we notice how it feels. Let our head relax down on our shoulder. Or if you want more, bend your elbow, but be mindful that as you bend your elbow, you don't want to draw the elbow forward. You want to keep it back. As we hold here, we're attempting to soften around the shoulder blade, lengthening through the side of our ribs, allowing our body to get really heavy on the foam roller. When and if you're ready, take your top shoulder and roll it back. And come back to center and repeat. And come back to center. And release our left arm out. Take our right hand in front of you. Press yourself up. And then we're going to come up to an all fours position. From our all fours, we're going to take our foam roller to the front of our mat, or about the middle of our mat, so that we have lots of room to roll our foam roller forward. So from here, we're going to start with our hands on top of the foam roller. We're sitting back onto our heels. We're lengthening through our spine, and we're finding a neutral spine position. Then from here, we're going to roll the foam roller forward, coming across our wrist, our forearm, and lowering down to what feels good for us. Listening to our shoulders as we lower our chest. Maybe let our forehead come down to the floor. Lengthening through mid back and upper back. Lengthening across the front of our chest. Closing our hips. And moving through core strength, lift our head so that our ears are either in line with our upper arms or a little bit higher. Keeping a flat back, we're going to slowly come up by pressing our forearms into the foam roller. Come all the way up onto hands, keeping a flat back. Rolling our hands forward again. Keep that flat back. Move from our hips, lowering down. And then we're going to come back up. Coming up onto hands, roll down as far as you feel successful in movement. Keeping hands in line with shoulders. And let's find one more. And come up. When we get to the top, we're going to walk our hands onto our mat. And we're going to let the front of our hips come to the foam roller. Try and stay at the top of our thighs and not actually be on the front of our hips. We're going to come down to forearms. And then we're going to roll forward a little bit. And then using our forearms, we're going to pull ourselves forward, keeping our belly hugged in so we're not dropping into our low back, but keeping it all supported. And then we're gonna walk our forearms forward until we feel a little bit of tension through the front of our thighs. And when you find that place, I want you to hold for a minute. You can use your toes on the floor, curling them under, pushing your feet into the floor. Make sure your core is hugged in if you're choosing this variation to help lighten the load on our quads. And then when you're ready, it softens and you want to move forward a little bit, roll forward a little bit. Just until the muscles begin to soften, and then we're going to continue to roll forward. Keep the belly hugged in. When you get just above the knees, I want you to stop. And then you're going to roll back. Staying off the front of our hips. We're going to roll down until our knees can make it to the floor. And then we're going to roll our left hip down and our right hip up. And then we're going to take our right knee out to the side so our toes turn out. So most of our weight is on our left leg. And then again, keeping the belly hugged in, we're going to do the same thing. Using our forearms, walk yourself forward. We're going to get right inner thigh and outer left quad. As soon as you start to feel some tension, you're going to hold, breathe, keep the belly hugged in. Let those muscles soften for a moment. And when you're ready to move on, move on. Staying off of our knees, just rolling up to where we feel successful. And then roll back up towards our hips once you've completed all of the areas of our quads. Pause when your left knee can make it back to the floor. And then we're going to extend our right leg back. And you're going to go to the other side when you're ready. So if you're still working on the other side, that's absolutely okay. When you're ready to move to the other side, it's the same thing. Roll to your right hip, draw your left knee out to the side, toes turn out to the side. Again, you can curl your right toes under to help take some of the weight off of your right hip, the outer right quad. And then roll up to a place where you feel tension and hold. Rolling back up to our hips once we finish the other side. And taking our time. Once we made it back to our hips, we're going to extend our left leg back, walk our hands underneath our shoulders, and draw our hips back for child's pose. Again, take your time. Don't feel rushed if you're not ready to move into child's pose yet. And from wherever we're at, we're going to come up to an all fours position. And then press the foam roller forward. And then we're going to flip over and grab a seat. From our flipped over position, we're going to take the back of our ankles to the top of our foam roller. And then take our hands behind us. You can have fingertips turned out, turn towards our feet, or turn back. You choose. And then I want you to take a moment to roll your feet out and roll your feet in. Roll your feet out and roll them in. And just kind of rolling to the back of our ankles, noticing how it feels. And then come to center, and we're going to lift our hips and scoot the foam roller up our legs a little bit. So we're moving just a little bit up from the ankles. And we're just moving with body weight that we have on our legs. So just take a moment to pause here. Notice how it feels. And if and when you're ready, roll out to the side and roll in. And see if you can cross your feet when you roll in so you get the inside of your ankles. And if you feel absolutely nothing here, there's no tenderness, everything feels great, and you want to take more weight, lift your hips up off the floor. Now I want you to notice where your tendency is for tension in your lower legs. Could be one leg more than the other. It could be as your toes point out or your toes point in. And then come to center. Walk your hands forward a little bit. Lift your hips. Roll up your calves. We're going to do the same thing. Roll out and roll back in. And bring your feet to center, lift your hips, roll up your legs a little bit more. We're staying off the back of our knees, so no back of our knees, just calves. Roll out and in. You may be somebody who holds tension in various different spots within your calves. So maybe it's not all outside or all inside or all center. Maybe it's a combination of all of that. So we're going to address all of that movement through movement. Make sure you feel comfortable to being on your wrists and that they're not fatigued. When you're ready, we're going to roll our feet out and we're going to hold. Make sure that you feel solid through your shoulders. So your shoulder blades are firm. Walk your hands back a little bit. Hug your belly in. Lift your hips And we're going to roll down towards our ankles. So when you run out of room and you can't roll anymore, I want you to put your hips down, walk your hands back, lift your hips again, and keep rolling down. Do this until you get to your ankles. And then when you get to your ankles, you're going to turn your toes in so that you're crossing your feet if you have that kind of internal rotation. And we're going to do the same thing, moving up our calves. So lifting our hips and roll in a little bit, put our hips down, walk our hands in, lift our hips, roll forward, and keep inching forward. Remember, we're staying off the back of our knees. And then when we get to this place just before our knees, turn your toes up and we're going to go back again. So make sure the hands are back. You feel stable in your shoulders. Hug your core in, lift, and roll to your ankles. When you get there, hips are down. You're going to bend your knees and you're going to roll the foam roller up to above your knees. And we're going to target our hamstrings. Hands come behind us, lift our hips, and we're going to roll up towards our glutes and roll back. Taking our time. Make sure the movement honors our shoulders. And the next time you come just above your knees, hold, put your hips down, and then we're going to turn both feet over to the right. So our toes turn to the right side. Then lift our hips, roll forward and back. So our left hip is up, right hip is down. Back to center. When you get back towards your knees, we're going to lower our hips and turn our feet to the left. Lift our hips up and roll. And then come back to our knees, turn, let our hips come down, turn our toes up, and then we're going to grab a seat on top of our foam roller. So bend our knees, hands come behind you, lift your hips up, place them on top of your foam roller. You can place your hands on blocks if you like, but many of us won't be staying in this position. So from here, I want you to lift your right foot, place your ankle over the top of your left thigh, and then lift your left hand and place it on your left thigh. Roll to your right glute. We're just going to take a moment to hold here. Roll a little bit deeper out towards the right part of your hip. Make sure you're stable. Adjust your feet, your hands as you need to. And then roll back to where you started. Your left hand's going to stay up. You're still in about the center of your right glute. We're going to roll up and down. Come back to center. Left hand's going to come back behind us. Bring our legs to center. Release our right foot down. Left foot's going to come on top of our right thigh, roll to our left glute. Right hand comes up to what honors you. Just take a moment to pause. If and when you're ready, roll to your left hip a little bit more. Roll back to the center of your glute. And we're going to roll down and up. Back to center. Place your right hand on the floor. Release your left foot. And we're going to come and grab a seat behind our foam roller and set up for Shavasana. So we're going to scoot towards the front of our mat, placing our foam roller underneath our knees. And then we're going to lower all the way down, coming to forearms, and then letting our head come down. Let our arms come out, palms facing up. And before we completely let go, I want you to make a fist with your hands. And then extend your fingers. Spread your fingers wide. And make a fist. And extend and spread your fingers. And one more time, make a fist. And extend. Relax your fingers. Lift our hands and roll out our wrists. Reverse the direction of our roll. And then releasing our hands down. Completely soften and let go. to our bodies. And our breath begin to deepen. And bend our knees, place our feet on top of the foam roller, and then walk it away. Releasing our feet back down to the floor. Let's roll over to our right side and press ourselves up. Finding our way back to a comfortable seated position. Rising up tall through our spine, checking in with how we feel from our ankles all the way up to the base of our head. Drawing this awareness into our hands as we bring them together in front of our heart, sealing it all in is a reminder of how we use our foam roller, how we take care of our body, where we hold on to tension, and finding another variety or another way of honoring that. Namaste.